Welcome to the QNF Green Laser training video. Let's first identify some of the tool's parts. This is the laser's stage, which we can move in the theta, x, and y direction using these controls on the computer screen. This is the stage in the inspection configuration, from which we do the focusing. The sample is directly under the inspection camera. This is the stage in the process configuration, at which we have the process camera, a vacuum and nitrogen purge, both used for removing vapor and debris, and the laser output. You can use the dials outside the door to control the lights for the process and inspection cameras. Each camera has its own dial. Make sure to dial these down when you have finished using the tool. Now, onto the procedure of using the green laser. When loading a sample, first confirm that the light for open beam stop is off. If this light is on, contact QNF staff. Otherwise, open the door to the stage, which should start out in the unload configuration. If not, simply run the unload part recipe found here. If your sample is smaller than the stage, you need to place a plastic sheet with a central rectangular cut underneath it. Make sure that the cutout is smaller than the sample itself. If your sample is not smaller than the chuck and you are surface machining, you can place your sample directly on the stage. But if through cut machining, you need to place a protective material such as a wafer or aluminum sheet over the chuck, then secure your sample using tape. To improve the vacuum effect, make sure that the wafer covers most of the stage. Then, close the door of the excimer, and when you're ready, go to the computer and select the load part recipe. Click the blue play button to enable the vacuum. A red pause icon will appear here on the screen. Press the play button again to complete the program. At this point, your sample is secured by the vacuum and ready for a new process. For focusing, head to this Jog Z tab and note these different toggles which allow you to switch between fine motion and coarse motion. Now, onto the CAD Import tab on the right side of the screen. From here, you can upload your file, which should be saved as a DWG or DXF file. Notice, we have a warning about the file seeming extremely large. It's likely that our units are incorrect. Move this divider such that we can read the numbers in this box, which prints the cursor location. As you move your cursor around the field, check if the numbers in this box make sense, and if they don't, go to the File tab and change the units. On the upper right part of the screen, there are several useful buttons that interact with this visualization. This is the zoom button, which lets you zoom in by dragging the cursor up or down. Then this is the zoom window button, which lets you zoom in by selecting a specific region. This button lets you pan around, and this button returns us to the full field of view. Lastly, this button shows you the axes and origin. You can change the origin location using this Import Offset section in the File tab. Next to the File tab, we have the Shape tab, where you can see the possible shapes, the Location tab, from which you can align the drawing's origin with the position of the inspection camera, and the Process tab. From this tab, you can set values for how the layers and features are processed. This CAD recipe, for example, has 2 layers. Let's take a look at them. We can double-click Enabled to disactivate a layer. Notice how the layers disappear according to this input. Setting Shared Settings to True forces the first settings to be applied to all enabled layers. This priority option defines which layer to run first, second, etc. Setting Closed Shapes to Mark will cause the laser to write on all lines. Fill Options also has several useful parameters. Passes per shape decides how many times a pattern is repeated. And these settings are set to default values and are described in the SOP. Once these settings are the way you want them, you can press the Build button to create a recipe for your design. Before you run the recipe though, you must add the header and the footer. First, select the first line of the recipe and press this green button to add the header. Then, scroll to the bottom, Select Add New Line and press this purple button to add the footer. After you make all the changes you would like to, save your changes by clicking this button. When you're ready, you can run the recipe by clicking on the blue play button and answering a few prompts. If the process needs to be aborted, press the stop button. Then you must run the global macro footer recipe to return the stage to the inspection configuration and unlock the door.